The male and female parts of a plant are the key elements in pollination. The male parts include the anther and filament, which together are called the stamen. The stamen produces the pollen. The female parts are the stigma, the style, and the ovary at the base of the flower, which together are called the carpel or pistil. Let's talk about male reproductive part of a flower. Male flower parts. Stamens are the male parts of a flower. Each stamen is made up of an anther and a filament. Anthers are sac-like structures containing pollen. Pollen is a powdery grain that contains the male reproductive cell. Filaments are stalk-like supports for anthers. Female flower parts. The pistil is the female part of a flower. Each flower's pistil is made up of three main parts: the stigma, the style, and the ovary. Stigma is the sticky top of a pistil. It traps and holds pollen that touches it. Style is the tube-like structure that holds up the stigma and provides a passageway down to the ovary. Ovary is the bowl-like shaped structure at the base of the pistil. This is the part that holds the ovules. Ovules are flower parts that develop into seeds after fertilization joining of pollen and ovule. Identify the male and female part of a flower. Is it a male or female part of a flower? Also, identify the part name. Carpel is the male or a female part of a flower. Pistil is also called pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen from an anther of a plant to the stigma of a plant, later enabling fertilization and the production of seeds. The agents or media which can transfer the pollen grains for pollination are called the agents of pollination. Pollinating agents can be animals such as insects, for example, beetles or butterflies, birds and bats, water, wind, and even plants themselves. Pollinating animals travel from plant to plant, carrying pollen on their bodies in a vital interaction that allows the transfer of genetic material critical to the reproductive system of most flowering plants. Pollination is the act of transferring pollen grains from the male anther of a flower to the female stigma. Pollen moves from one plant to another through pollinators.
Now it's your turn to explain pollination.
There are two types of pollination: cross-pollination and self-pollination. Self-pollination. Self-pollination is a form of pollination in which pollen from the same plant arrives at the stigma of a flower or at the ovule. Self-pollination can be observed in legumes such as orchids, sunflowers, peas, peanuts, oats, peaches, potatoes, wheat, and others. The transfer of pollen from a male reproductive structure, an anther or male cone, to a female reproductive structure, a stigma or female cone of the same plant or of the same flower. Let's talk about cross-pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of one plant to the stigma of another different plant is called cross-pollination. In cross-pollinating plants, the flowers adopt various means to attract insects. In such plants, the flowers are usually large, brightly colored, with good smell.
Examples:
pumpkins, grapes, grasses, apples, maple trees, daffodils. Open your mind and think about. So if there is no pollination?
Spend quality of time with nature and comment your observations, understandings, and analysis regarding the topic.